Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen to my new video where we are going to go over my 5 top tips for Trundle. Now, if you're new to my channel, my name is Lofit. I do educational content, I do tips videos, guide videos, and I'm going to start streaming more often here on YouTube if you would like to ask me any questions directly. Now, the reason I really wanted to cover Trundle before the new season drops is because he is going to be an amazing pick. I think he's going to be a really underrated pick because there are going to be a lot more tanks coming in with the recent changes overall to Conqueror and to the new Mountain Drake buff. There is just going to be a really strong spot for more tanks, so I don't think you're going to be seeing as many bruisers. You're still going to obviously see quite a bit of bruisers, but Trundle is going to be a great duelist and overall pick into a lot of different things. He might struggle into a few range picks, but he's going to be a great overall champion to pick up. He is easy to pick up. You can pretty much play him at his peak level of potential after about 5 or 6 games, and it's a really strong counter pick into several different champions. I just wanted to cover this real quick. Things like Misfortune, Vel'Koz, Shen, things that need to channel something for the ability to go through. Your Pillar just is an absolutely amazing tool to cancel that out and can provide a knockup for if you are playing with those famous Yasuos in solo queue. So guys, if you have any of your own tips, I would love to hear your thoughts down below. I am kind of limiting myself with this format where I only go over 5 different things, but if you guys add kind of what you've learned when you play in Trundle, I would love to hear your thoughts, particularly item builds and how you build Trundle, because he is so extremely flexible with how you play him out. I'll cover that in one of my tips and just kind of give you my thoughts. So without any more delay, let's get into the video. Alright, and getting into tip number 1, I just want to talk about a really basic trading pattern you can look to take advantage of when you are playing Trundle, because he has a very simple kit. Just taking this simple idea and thought process into your trades is going to pay off rather large dividends, as he is really easy to execute most of the time. So you want to make sure to get your Chomp attack damage bonus by auto attacking the minion represented here by this target dummy and getting that extra auto attack damage when you look for the trade right here. So as you see right here, the auto attack damage buff is there, and then you get the double chomp bonus, and you're going to have a lot more damage. This is going to be a lot more impactful, but always look to cancel your auto attack with your Q and just getting that really nice reset. Now you can look to play out the W a couple different ways. If they are looking to duel you, you want to have the most effective time of it up while you are engaged. You do not want to have your W up just running at a champion that wants to come and fight you anyways. You want to look for the W to have as much uptime as possible, as it gives that really strong attack speed healing buff, and it increases your healing, and it will be able to, it's going to give you a little bit more of your King's Tribute. It's going to give you a bit more if you have any kind of healing through your runes. It's going to give you a bit more, so look to take advantage of your W. Now, your E is going to be a little bit different. How you want to look to play out this E is you can do a couple different things with it. You want to either disengage with the E. If you figure out, oh, this guy's beating me in the 1v1, you can just E and run away, as they are going to really gonna have to be in that slow zone and take not a straight line as you are going to be able to, so it's going to be very hard for them to chase you down. Next up, you can look to use your E in a pretty sneaky way. This is where a lot of the skill expression actually comes when you are playing Trundle, and that is extending walls to force people a certain way. As you can see right here, you are unable to walk through the right side, so you are effectively making this pillar a lot harder to go through, and they are not able to take a straight line. So if you see the enemies using the walls a lot and just kind of trying to take this route right here, extending that wall with the Pillar of Ice is going to be extremely strong, and it is just going to allow you to chase them down as well. So this is just kind of a basic trading pattern that you can look to do. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about when you could look to use the ultimate. Now, this is going to be extremely important when you are fighting, because it's really just going to turn you into this insane stat stick that is going to have a lot of damage. Now, it is really important to understand with subjugation is it's a big cooldown, and people are going to look to bait it out and disengage. So you want to make sure that they are committed to a fight. Maybe, for example, it's an Aurelia and they use a Q in on you, and that they're no longer going to have a dash. That would be a great time to subjugate. Just make sure that you have their mobility spells down, for example, like a Camille hookshot jumping in then you can look to subjugate. Never subjugate before they do the hook shot, or else they will just run away with it up. Another thing you really want to look at is kind of a fine line, is you are going to get bonus armor and magic resist, and you are going to steal maximum health. So how you want to look to play this out with the extra stats that you are getting from the armor and magic resist is when they are looking to burst you. If you're playing against something that is super ability based, like a Jace that is looking to jump in, combo you with a large rotation of spells, you want to make sure that you have that extra armor and magic resist up when he is looking to do it. You do not want to do it later in the fight, as it might not be as effective because he already used his burst and got you to a lower HP threshold. Now, if you have any questions about this tip, I'd love to hear your comments down below, and that will wrap up tip number 1. Alright, and getting into tip number 2, I want to talk a little bit about his playstyle when you are looking to play out just the overall lane, or you're looking to split push. It is really important, in my opinion, to get a little bit of added wave clear, whether it be a Tiamat or maybe push the lane a little bit more with the Iceborne Gauntlet. Another thing that is extremely strong with Trundle is the extra Sheen proc is going to be great, because it is going to allow him to push towers extremely quickly with his extra attack speed buff from his W and his auto attack reset with his Q. You just start absolutely destroying towers when you get a little bit of uptime. So always keep this in mind when you are playing Trundle, is you are really strong at taking towers and clearing minion waves post Tiamat. So how you can look to take advantage of this is by creating a pressure point on the map and making sure that you are putting as much pressure out and causing just a really big distraction, allowing your other teammates to just do what they need to do to just really get ahead in the game. Next up, the next thing I want to talk about is so with subjugate, you are able to, cat is going crazy, you are able to tower dive quite a bit with the additional defenses. But if they're a strong duelist and you're unable to tower dive them, Trundle is a very strong 1v1 duelist, and this can be amplified heavily in the jungle. So if you are unable to dive the tower and you have your lane pushed, always look to take advantage of the enemy jungler, because you are going to be quite a bit higher level than the enemy jungler, getting access to that solo experience. So always look to at least get wards if you are unable to dive and you don't really want to overextend to the tower. And the best thing you could possibly do is put the enemy jungler ahead, and that will have, or put the enemy jungler behind, and that will have a ripple effect across the map where the enemy jungler isn't able to affect the other lanes, and it allows your jungler to affect those lanes even more. So always look to take advantage of Trundle's strong dueling potential by putting pressure on the enemy jungler. If you have any questions about this, I'm just more than willing to help you guys out. And that will wrap up tip number 2. Alright, and getting into tip number 3, I want to talk a little bit about itemization. I think this is an extremely important skill of League of Legends, is understanding what is the best item for the different situations, and Trundle is extremely flexible with his item build. So this is going to be just a really great experiment when you are learning to pick up Trundle, to kind of play around with what items you are building when. In my just kind of how I look to play it out is I go really a little bit more the defensive tanky route when I'm behind or even, and then when I get a little bit far ahead, I start building more aggressive, and I buy the components that match how my lane is going. So if I'm doing extremely well, I might buy an early Tiamat. If I might be getting beat up a little bit in lane, I might start maybe something like a Glacial Shroud to get the Iceborne Gauntlet going. So just have a good understanding of that early kind of lane, because Trundle can struggle a little bit in the early game pre-6 as he is not the strongest of the duelers in the top lane. Also looking at a couple of different items that I would really want to shout out. Again, I covered this in the previous tip, but Iceborne Gauntlet is going to be great for taking towers, or a Triforce if you want to go even more aggressive. It is quite expensive, so you want to make sure you have access to a lot of resources if you are looking to pick up Triforce. The second thing I really want to talk about is Tiamat. With Trundle, he does struggle a little bit with his wave clear, and you need to augment that with an ability if you are able to. Now, if you're super far behind, you definitely just want to sit on the Tiamat or not even buy it and just try and be a presence in the team fights. But if you have a little bit of split push potential, you maybe have a little bit of priority over the enemy top laner, this can be great for pushing down waves extremely quickly. Next thing I really want to talk about is the Sterix gauge. It works so well with Trundle because, as you can see with the shield, you gain 75% of your bonus health, and you are taking bonus health from the enemy. So if you are playing against something like a really heavy health stack or something like a Scion that has like 4 or 5k HP, and you proc Sterix with that extra subjugate HP, his shield is just going to start turning insane and just allowing you to tank up for an extremely long time. So I think Sterix gauge is a little bit of an underrated item on Trundle right now. Next up, Spirit Visage is extremely strong because it is going to increase your healing and your dueling potential. And when I usually do quite well on Trundle, I like to have a little bit of lifesteal in my lane and then have that amplified by the frozen domain as well. You can go to something like a Bork if you're against a bunch of HP stackers, or something like a Wit's End if you're against a bunch of magic resist users. Things like Randuin's Omen are extremely effective on Trundle as well, is because a really strong thing against a lot of enemy AD is not only that it is just a great overall tanky item, it gives you more chase down potential with the slow. I do see some people using Deadman's, but I do not think it's as effective as Randuin's in the ultimate chase down. It can be good to close the initial gap, but Randuin's I think is going to be a little bit better with the 2-second slow, as opposed to just maybe running up and getting that momentum crushing blow on your first auto attack and then having them just kite away. The Randuin's is just, the slow is going to stick low for 1 second longer, and is overall just a more cost-effective item in my opinion, giving the 20% damage taken from basic attacks, critical attacks. So keep this in mind when you're playing Trundle. Kind of play around with the pass, and I will help you out as much as possible. If you just want to hit me up in the comments and say, hey, I played against a very AD heavy team, I was maybe going even or winning a little bit, what should my item build be? I would love to help you out with that kind of stuff. So just keep this in mind when you're playing Trundle. Do not fall into that trap that I see a lot of players do and just build the same thing over and over again, expecting different results and not building for the game state. That is just the #1 thing that I see a lot of low elo players doing that is not good. Alright, and that will wrap up tip number 3. Alright, and jumping into tip number 4, I want to talk a little bit about where Trundle thrives quite heavily when he is in team fights, and that is really going to revolve around his Pillar of Ice. These 3 things work pretty well no matter where you are. So understanding that you can extend and really extend a wall and condense a choke point even further is going to be extremely important for your team for a couple different reasons. It's going to be a lot easier to land skill shots. It's going to be a lot easier for really big AoE ultimates to go off and to hit several people. And then also what this can do is if you throw the pillar on the back line, it's going to cut off a route of escape, or they're going to be extremely slowed. So you're going to be you're enabling mages and assassins on your team. Overall, Trundle is just an amazing pick. He did see a lot of pro play last season because he was able to just be played in the jungle, build his Zeeks, and just be a really good frontline, and then assist the team with just getting really strong position in team fights. So if you keep that in mind when you are looking to have team fights with Trundle, it is going to be rather beneficial. It's just all about just getting into those games and getting used to just placing really devastating pillars that can cut off people. See, as you can see, it's not going to be as effective with the pillar in larger kind of areas that are very easy to just move around it and avoid the slow. But a pillar, say a 5v5 team fight is going on right here, a pretty common spot for it, and a pillar is going down right here, they are going to either have to, if you cut off the enemy team, here, let's just set up an example. If you have 2 enemy teammates there and 2 of the enemies are over there, getting a pillar in between them is going to really cause quite a big amount of panic, because these 2 people are cut off and you can focus them down while the backline doesn't really have the most access to your backline, and it's just going to really make them either try and overcommit into this really big hallway that is you're going to be able to throw down a lot of abilities at them, or they're going to have to retreat and kind of see these 2 players and you're going to be able to kill their front line. So always look for those really big cutoffs with the Pillar of Ice, and then obviously with the extending of the walls is another big point. So if you have any questions about this, you can hit me up in the comments down below, and that will wrap up tip number 4. Alright, and for the final tip, I want to just talk about how I get a lot of my kills in lane when I'm playing Trundle. I usually let myself get to a low HP threshold by letting them beat up and think can easily win the 1v1 and lure them as deep as they will chase me into my lane, and then looking for a really strong turnaround with my subjugate. And this is really important because you want to kind of lead them into a wall so that you can extend the terrain with your ice pillar. And then how you're going to look to play this out is maybe a auto Q, R, W, and then E to stop their escape. And this is just going to really provide a lot of turnaround potential. I know you're probably not going to get that much health back, as you see, because these things just have a massive HP pool. That's why I'm getting a lot back. But the subjugate can really just turn around any 1v1, and the further you bait them down the lane, the more turnaround potential and more chase potential you have against them. And this is just really going to usually pan out with the kill. This is just usually an absolute free kill if I see someone kind of chasing them around. So you really want to embody the kind of the trickiness of the troll and just try and lure them into those 1v1s that they think that they can win, but you know you're going to win with your overall subjugate and just your beating them over the head with superior stats. So that will wrap up my video, guys. If you have any questions or if you wanted to add your own tips down below, I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you would like to join my Discord, I'm going to put a link down below if you want to just chat, hang out. I announce my streams there as well. And as always, guys, take it easy.